Crew Pros, your single source for high-quality, affordable home services. If you are remodeling, repairing, or replacing, Crew Pros are the professionals that can do the job no matter the size. If you are thinking of remodeling your kitchen or bath, needing a new HVAC system, plumbing repairs, flooring, or a complete roof replacement, call Crew Pros. Crew Pros, proud sponsor of the Grizz 901 podcast.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said, I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. I am your host, Daniel Greer, and we are presented by Zach Jaworski State Farm at 901-794-3691. I almost just completely messed it up. Zach Jaworski State Farm. We have some friends tonight, but we got to bring in our main guy. What's up, Nate? You're laughing at my intro already. And I got you on loop, man. Look at this. We're just completely screwing everything up tonight.
Yours over here like a little Zach Zaworski Safe Farm. Presented the 90 Grizz podcast. What's up, everybody? Big Body Roddy. Woo! Draft Profit. No big deal. Wow. Me and Kleiman are just perfectly aligned on some things. So not sure we're perfectly aligned on everything, but that's a topic for another night. But go Grizz, baby. Proud of the boys for the win tonight.
Grizzlies take down the Mavericks, but we always try to befriend a friend, right? And we always try to bring in somebody new. So we got some new music. Oh, just wait. This is beautiful. Just wait for it. There he is. He's from Dallas, Texas. He's doing Mavs lead. Hey, that's so Texas. It was beautiful. What's up, Brendan? Did you like your music?
I'm glad to be on here. It's I loved it. I don't know what Nate's bugging about. But
you do not have to lie on this show. I never do.
Listen, I was on YouTube today looking for copyright-free music.
Yeah,
and the first thing I just put in was just Texas, and that's the first thing that popped up, and it was beautiful, man. It was great. So had to make sure I got some good music to intro you. So let's go ahead and get into the game a little bit, and so kind of get your first thoughts on that. The Grizzlies win 104-88. First initial thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I liked the first half of this game. I thought the Mavs came out. We had no Kyrie, no Luka, no Christian Wood. So essentially, we were down bad playing the young guys. But the young guys stepped up. Josh Green had a great game. Jaden Hardy had a great game. He looked very impressive in his rookie season. I like what we have in him. They looked good in the first half. The second half was just, I mean, it was a tale of two halves, and you know, the Mavs are very bad in the third quarter, and they did a great job of showing that today. And I think if you're going to take, I think if you're going to take a difference in this game, the third quarter was definitely the big magnifying thing for, I think, both teams.
Yeah, the Grizzlies are, one of the best, if not the best, third quarter team in all the NBA. And even with Ja Morant out, like the Grizzlies have continued to be a dominant third quarter team. It was a 15-point spread, 36-21 in the third quarter. And that's really where it comes down to. The fourth quarter was unwatchable, 19-17. Like just in general, I know the game got kind of out of it a little bit, and the game kind of got a 20-point lead at some point, the Grizzlies did. It was just unwatchable. Nate, first thoughts on the game?
I mean, Brendan's absolutely right. The third quarter was a big difference, but it was the Grizz did not have, in my opinion, any kind of sense of urgency in the first half either, right?
Yeah.
It sort of looked like they were screwing around some, and they just, I was texting you throughout the game. I thought Tyus was pretty checked out for quite a bit of the game, and Jaren was, I don't know. We probably shouldn't even talk about that tonight. But the team in general, I thought, came in locked in the third quarter. The Mavs missed some shots that they would make in all the first half, and then in the fourth quarter they'd make some again. But the Grizz did a good job of capitalizing on the Mavs misses and built a cushion that they hadn't been building for quite a while now. They've not been building that kind of cushion. The Warriors game, notwithstanding, because the Warriors, a 20-point lead is like an 8-point lead when you're playing the Warriors. It just appears like that. But listen, both teams are missing guys, but the Mavs are not. I don't think your Mavs are built to handle missing your guys as much, Brendan. Oh, did we just lose them?
We just lost him, but keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll bring him up to date on what's going on. But
yeah, the Mavs are not built to withstand those losses as well. I think that the trade deadline was not kind to the Mavs. I think it's just been a rough season since they weren't able to re-sign Jalen Brunson, and they just don't have the roster. Right, there we go. He's back. Brendan, what I was saying is I just don't think the Mavs have the roster to withstand losing guys the way that the Grizz can withstand losing their guys, right? Your top two guys are
right. No, you're absolutely right. It's
more important when it comes to regular season games. When it gets to playoffs and stuff, it's a little different.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They don't, when they have guys missing like Luka and Kyrie, and they don't have depth, especially at the power forward center position. And this is what drives me crazy, because our nut job of a coach says we do have depth. And I mean, he said this a couple of, or actually I think it was last game, if not a couple of games ago. He was asked about Christian Wood only playing 15 minutes, and he was like, well, that's a depth. So that's a depth. You got Dwight Powell, Christian Wood, and JaVale McGee, who doesn't get any playing time. And so that's our quote unquote depth. So like, what kind of, it just shows like the monstrosity of a brain that Jason Kidd has. And it drives me crazy as a fan.
Yeah, no, I completely. We were talking a little bit before this, and I kind of said, I did the whole Bill Walton, keep it for the show, to Brendan before the show, and so bear with us for a second. I think Brendan's on like a 2-second delay, and so for whatever reason, it's the internet, it's the computer people. They don't give us the proper delay we asked for when we signed up. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into a little bit more about. I want to get in more to the Mavs part of things. Okay. So we're going to talk another 10 or 15 minutes max about, with Brendan here at Mavs Lead, about the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. And there's two things I want to ask for. And Nate, if you have a question, feel free. But my two things will be playoffs, because I think that's so important for the Mavericks and their fan base. Like, what direction do you think that they're going to go? Like, what's happening? Like, they continue to keep falling. And then about the Luka and Kyrie, let's say they do make the playoffs. Let's say they do make the play-in for whatever reason. They are in one of the top 10 spots. Okay. At that point, it doesn't matter, except for, you got to make those, important games. You got to win those. But I want to know what your feelings are when they're on the court, because they haven't looked great together. But let's go ahead and get into the playoffs thing first. And Brendan, I'm going to go ahead and just go straight to you here. Are they making the playoffs? Like, what's happening over there in Dallas? Like, they're currently in the 8, and they have 13 games remaining at a record of 34-35. So what's your thoughts on them being in that 8 spot?
There we go. No, playoffs, I think, what's really frustrating. I hope we make the playoffs, man, because this Western Conference is tight, and we can't be in the position we're in to. We can't be in the position that we're in right now, down our 2 stars, and essentially 3 best players, and in a tight Western Conference like this. So I hope we make the playoffs. But actually, part of me hopes we don't make the playoffs and tank for a good draft pick. Just because this is where it's frustrating, because we're so mid, we're so mid, and you can't be that way with a star like Luka. Either do one or the other. It's like compete for a championship or compete for a really good draft pick and get a really good player in a really good class. What drives me crazy is the Mavericks are right in between, and you just can't do that with a star like Luka and essentially a 1-year rental with Kyrie.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
I want to ask a question about that too, because it is defensively, you guys are a mess. That just sort of is what it is, right? But that's not really new, right? Dorian Finney-Smith was sort of the guy who could play defense for you guys, and that's not new. I am interested in what your thoughts are around why the team is mid, because it's not like you have terrible pieces, right? I mean, you have Tim Hardaway, who is a bucket, right? I mean, he can get really cold, but he also can get torching hot, right? And go get you a bunch of buckets, and he's athletic enough to hold up on defense. You got Josh Green now, who is sort of emerging. I've watched him a little bit this year and been really impressed with what I've seen. He's been a lot more assertive. The game's definitely slowed down for him, not just in the past 2 games, right? He hit a little bit of a slump before these past 2 games, but overall, this season's been a good season for him. And then you've got guys like Jaden Hardy, who obviously can score with the best of them, right? Obviously, not going to sit here and say he's some defensive stalwart, but he can score. Christian Wood, who obviously can score and has his defensive moments as well every once in a while. Why do you think this team can't put the pieces together? Is it just because Jason Kidd is incompetent, or is it something about Luka and it just not being the right pieces? I mean, in your opinion, what is it? Because for me, from an outsider's view, it's confusing why, like you said, you're so mid, right? I just don't understand it.
Right. I think when you look at take the coaching away for a second, if you look at the roster, it goes in a completely different direction. With Dorian Finney-Smith, we were more of a defensive team. He was our best defender. He hadn't done that well or as good as he did last year, up until the trade. So that was a big turn in getting more offense in Kyrie. You're right. Josh Green has emerged, and I couldn't be happier, because all Maverick fans wanted this to happen. And despite an up and down season, a pretty disappointing season for us, Josh Green has had a great season. So it really shows his potential. And because fact of the matter is, he was at some points unplayable last year, and it's cool to see the growth that he's made year to year. And I'm gonna kind of give him the quote unquote Luka treatment. He's 22 or he's 23, like he's young, and so he has that potential in him still. I think we're missing a center, like a defensive big, and this is why I've been a guy like Mitchell Robinson. I've been a fan of his for years, and I've been saying, get him on the Mavs any way you can. That's the guy. That's the kind of guy we need. A young, defensive potential. He's so underrated defensively, and I really want him in a Mavericks uniform. Don't get JaVale McGee on my roster. That's the complete opposite of what. Hey, listen, I'll say that I was the biggest JaVale McGee fan in the offseason. I said this is the guy that we're gonna put him at the 5, and he's gonna be our defensive anchor. I was wrong. I've already taken full responsibility for that, and I'm reaping in my. I've accepted my sin, and I'm done with it. So, but no, like, and even then, like Dwight Powell is not it. He's you want to know why Kevon Looney looked like Shaquille O'Neal in the Western Conference Finals last year? 2 words: Dwight Powell. And like, so I mean, there's no depth. So I mean, we need a wing and a defensive center in the rotation, and then I think we can do something. But that's without coaching. Jason Kidd, I was a big Jason Kidd fan last year. I liked his approach. I liked his defensive approach last year, and it brought us to the Western Conference Finals. This year, he's just became incompetent in a year span. And one of the things that he said in a press conference a couple of games ago, he was like, "Well, we're trying to or actually not a couple of games ago. It was right before we got Kyrie. We're not trying to be a defensive team. The object of the game is to score the ball, and you know the most points wins after games." He says the most simplest things that are just stupid, and I looked at that quote and I said, okay, if you're gonna change approaches, that's fair. Change coaches. If you're gonna, because Jason Kidd is not an offensive guru. He's barely a defensive guru. So if you're gonna change approaches like this, if you're gonna change your mindset, then change coaches. Like this system, honestly, I would have liked to see with Rick Carlisle because he was an offensive guy. But with Jason Kidd, it's like, dude, you should see the Mavericks fan base. They've won game one by one. They have wanted Jason Kidd's head on a swivel and his butt in a desert in Arizona. And I mean, I kind of agree with them. Like, this is getting ridiculous.
Listen. We have heard the demise of our coach as well throughout Twitter, right? And so you hear a lot of fans call for the coach's head, but honestly, I get it because the outsider looking in, it's just kind of frustrating too. But it's also a little bit of the pieces that y'all have on the team. It just seems to me not good fits. And then you're going out and grabbing a piece like Kyrie, which Kyrie is awesome when he's on the court, but also that hurts you defensively. You kind of had to put a good piece together. You got to have the border going, right? When you're building the puzzle, like I do with my kids, we do the outside border. Like, what does your border look like? Do you have it all done? Like, no. Like literally you're getting Luka and he is your everything for this team. And so you go out and bring another superstar in like Kyrie, but your other stuff just doesn't seem to fit. So you got a bunch of guys that can really score the ball, but you have to figure out, do we completely just change pace? Is it a different scheme we have to run? Because at this point, it should be all offense all the time. And if it's not, then you're never going to win. You're going to have to score 140 points to win a game. And that's why I'm curious what happens. My other thing I want to get to is the Kyrie and Luka stuff. Do you like that fit for the Mavs in general? Because let's say, with all things considered, the Mavericks get to the playoffs. Who cares? 7, 8, 9, I don't care. Whatever. They end up getting to where they can play a series, right? And so they win a play-in game, or they're actually in. So we have them in the playoffs. Do you feel comfortable in a series with Luka-led as well as Kyrie-led Dallas Mavericks team?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because I really like the score or the scoring breakdown by quarter. Luka is the leader in first quarter scoring. I have to look at second quarter because Luka doesn't play half of the second quarter. Luka's the leader in third quarter scoring, and then his teammate Kyrie Irving is the league leader for fourth quarter scoring. So I like the discrepancy in that area, but I also like this pairing because ever since we lost Jalen Brunson, Luka has needed at least a secondary ball handler. And that's one of the reasons why we got Spencer Dinwiddie was for a third ball handler. Well, there's a big difference between Spencer Dinwiddie and Kyrie Irving in terms of like established ball handler, can command the offense when Luka's not on the floor. And, at the rate that the Mavericks were going with Spencer Dinwiddie and Luka, and then they were trying out third ball handlers with the corpse of Kemba Walker, with Frank Ntilikina, and they were Jaden Hardy for some. Like they were trying their hardest to get a third ball handler, and then they got Kyrie, and it took so much weight off of Luka's shoulders. I was afraid they were gonna freaking run him to the ground, Luka, with when they had Spencer Dinwiddie. So I was afraid they were gonna run him to the ground, but they got Kyrie, they got an established secondary ball handler, and they got a guy who can command the offense, who can run the offense, and who can get a bucket when he needs to.
Right. Well, what do you say when you bring up a record of Kyrie when he's playing alongside Luka's 3 and 6? When Luka's been out of the game and Kyrie's played, they're 2-0. Like, does that worry you at all that they just might not have enough time to mesh before the playoffs?
Yes and no. I was gonna say it's too. I mean, it's a small sample size, but
right.
That's why I really hope this isn't a 1-year deal or 1-year rental, and I want Kyrie Irving on the Mavs as much as possible because I think he's a perfect guy next to Luka. I think he's a perfect. He's a point guard that can be a shooting guard. He can shoot. Guy like you talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. He drives us crazy as Maverick fans because he can be a bucket. Like he can torch a team. Granted, but for like a game like today, he can get 5 points and go over 20. So you just never know what you're gonna get out of him, and it drives us crazy. But guy like Kyrie, he's a certified bucket. Like he can hit mid-range shots, he can hit from outside. He can drive to the rim and he's not afraid of contact. So it's a small sample size, but that's why I want to see Kyrie and Luka on the same floor or as much as possible heading into the postseason.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's, 13 games left, 5 at home and 8 on the road. That's going to be a tough turnaround for the Dallas Mavericks and what they have, the road ahead. The 13 games remaining, if you lose 2 games, you obviously could, right now they're at 8, they could fall all the way down to 12. But that's so tough. But the vice versa, if they win a couple of games and kind of solidify themselves and enough people lose, they can push up into the playoffs and actually not be in the play-in. So there's so much volatility there where they could move forward and backwards. And so it's a long season, and I'm curious with 13 games remaining, what really shakes out, because this team had so much promise, and now it's looking like it's, in the balance. Like who knows what's going to happen, but I'm excited to kind of see. We have something different that we have it in Grizzlies land over here. We have other issues ourselves. So the fact that y'all's are mainly on the court is good and not off the court. So we all have our issues. But Nate, do you have anything else for Brendan?
Nothing really. I'm interested to see what happens in end of game scenarios when you have 2 guys who are both who you would go to at the end of the game, and they're going to have to be sharing the court together. That's been the most interesting thing to me, is to watch a lot of these tight games with both Kyrie and Luka. Like, who do you want taking that last shot? Right. I'm partial towards Luka, but then I think about it and I'm like, maybe I should be partial towards Kyrie, who's hit that shot in a finals game, right, to win an NBA championship. That's a hard decision, and there's no wrong answer. And sometimes having no wrong answer is the worst case scenario when you're trying to figure stuff out in short time frames. But I'm interested to see, because y'all will be a fun team to watch with both those guys on, right? There's no doubt about that. It's just, can you be a winning team with both those guys on? Because they're not always the same. But hopefully you guys get healthy and we get to see what the best version of that is.
Yeah, we're about to hit on some Grizzlies stuff, but before that, we want to get Brendan, talk with him. And it's been a blast getting to meet you face to face. We've obviously interacted many a times on Twitter, mainly you just kind of looking at us losing all the time to Dallas. And so this is different. Last 2 games, the Grizzlies have actually won. But we're going to hit on some Grizzlies stuff. I want to give you your last chance, last thoughts on the Dallas Mavericks or anything else you got.
Yeah, I think I'm as curious as any to see the last 13 games for us. It's encouraging. I think we play the Grizzlies again, and then I think that's the highest seed we have remaining on our schedule, and that could help us. But we've proven that it doesn't matter, because we've had the easiest schedule according to record post All-Star break, and I think we're 2-9 now. So it's all fun and games over here. But
well, Brendan, man, it's been a blast. Brendan is with Mavs Lead. If you get a chance, go follow him over there if you're a Mavericks fan. Thank you, obviously, for joining us and listening to Brendan share his thoughts on the Mavericks. But go follow him if you're already not, at Mavs Lead. Always good stuff. You're always much more interactive than I am over at Grizz Lead. You do a much better job than me. That's why this is a young man's game and not for me and my old bad word. So that's all we have, Brendan. Thank you again for coming and hanging out, man. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep. Thank you, man. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of Grizzlies talk. Before we get there, we're going to talk about Zach Jaworski, State Farm. You can give them a call at 901-794-3691. If you have any insurance need, whether it is home, auto, if you have any homeowners, I guess that is home. What an idiot. Motorcycle, ATV, anything you have that you have insured, you can get a free quote online. Just go to Zach, Z-A-C-H, ZachInsuresMemphis.com. And that is Zach Jaworski, State Farm, 901-794-3691. All right, let's get back to the Grizzlies talk. Thank you for Brendan for hanging out with us and kind of sharing his thoughts. I thought it was very insightful. I wish we could have had the pre-podcast conversations. Obviously, they were more probably explicit than normal, but it was all about Jason Kidd, and it was awesome. And I said, all right, we can't offer those words, but we want to set you up and ask some questions. And so he didn't want to be too down on Jason Kidd because he didn't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I think he offered a very good insight on what his team looks like. So enough about the Mavericks. The Grizzlies tonight, they were the winner at 104-88. Obviously, you're over the moon on David Roddy. How was tonight?
You already know. Dude, I'm so happy they won both those games, because let me tell you, I don't think I've had the emotional swing that I had in the home Mavs game in a long time. That was about the most disappointed and pissed off I could be with the team, all the way to the happiest I could possibly be watching the Grizzlies play basketball, all within just one quarter. Really? I mean, the David Roddy experience is just otherworldly. I don't know, outside of the Ja Morant's out-of-body 52-point game, if we've had anything like this as Grizzlies fans since the Zebo Spurs quarter. Yeah. It's seeing him thrive, in all seriousness, is a ton of fun, dude. It's a guy who you can tell works really hard. And, I think part of the reason we love Pete and Brev is that they bring a joy to that broadcast that is uncanny, right? You listen to a lot of these other broadcasts and you can hear them going with the ups and downs of the game.
Right.
Brev and Petey keep it right here.
Yeah.
You got the peaks, the valleys, they stay on the train tracks all the way through.
Yeah.
And you see the same thing in David Roddy. It's one of my favorite things hearing Brev talk about David Roddy he's like, man, he has that smile on his face and he is just full of joy to be here, thankful to be here. And he's not going to let a single second go to waste. Right.
Yeah.
And you get to see the fruits of that, and we talked in the summer, we talked in the beginning of the season, we talked about our differences on what we saw with Roddy, and I was like, he's got that it factor, man. He just has that dog in him. If he starts knocking down threes, I'm not even going to throw shade at you for saying he didn't have the it factor. I was going to leave that alone. I was going to go with what I saw, which was he is an absolute bulldog. He's going to get after it every second he's on the court, and if he starts knocking down perimeter shots, he is your PJ Tucker plus, right? Yeah. And we're getting to see that from him these past 2 games. And, I saw where somebody on Mavs Twitter, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but send out something about, this David Roddy stuff so fake, do it against a real team. And I'm like, listen, you're missing Luka, but he's doing it against the guys he's going to be matched up with against normally, right? Yeah. He's doing it on an NBA floor against NBA players. It's not like he's the one that's battling Jaden Hardy or whoever. Isaiah McKenzie, right? I don't remember the guy's name. I think that's it.
I don't know.
He's going up against the Maxi Klebers of the world, who's an NBA rotation player, Reggie Bullock, Tim Hart. Like, he's battling with these guys who are real NBA rotation players. And listen, the Mavs had the Grizzlies up against the wall in that game back in Memphis. And David Roddy is the reason they won that game. If David Roddy doesn't come out with that spark, they're not winning that basketball game. And it's like, I just felt like, this is going to sound really weird. I felt like a proud papa. Just watch him go out there and ball out, man. I was just so happy. I was texting people who don't even watch the Grizzlies. I was like, man, come on. But as far as what it looks like for this team going forward, you need that. You need that guy who can do it all. It's like Dylan, but he's hitting his threes right now, which Dylan hit his threes tonight too. Double whammy. I say hit his threes. He's still shot like under 30% or something like that.
Let's slow down a little bit. 4 of 11. It looked really bad at times and it looked really good at times, but 4 of 11 from 3-pointer. Let's slow the train down a little bit. Yeah. Speaking of slowing the train down, my wife's back here, trying to get the dog out to go to the restroom.
Hey, do you have ESPN on right now?
I don't.
Dude, the Clay Steph experience is in full effect right now. It's pretty wild. You should turn it on. Yeah. All
right. I'll have to do that. But yeah, so I want to get to the Roddy stuff. Okay. This is going to be a lot about David Roddy for the simple fact that I have some thoughts on it. And one, I think he's taking what I have said. Huge John Conchar fan, right? I am. I think he does a lot of the little things right. I also think he should be your 10, 11, 12 on your team. And that means that you're having a good year. People are healthy. He's the guy. He's the insurance policy. He's like your Zach Jaworski insurance. If you need him, he's there. Not a big deal. But I think that David Roddy has such a high ceiling that he's going to take the leap over John Conchar. He's probably already taken it, but he's showing right now that he is in full effect taking the leap. I saw people on Twitter talking about how John Conchar is still ahead of David Roddy, I guess, in the pecking order in the rotations, and that's not true. That is not true, especially these last 2 games. He's played more minutes than John Conchar, but for the other simple fact is, just because you come in the game as a bench player in the NBA, we'll say the NBA, not any other level, because mainly it is the first person off the bench is your best player. But I will say, no, Chris. We're not talking about that. I'll bring it up, okay?
Do you see it?
A couple of times on the podcast saying he didn't see it.
Do you see it?
All right, so yeah, maybe. Hey, listen, Miss Roddy follows us on Grizzlies, so maybe she saw it. So shout out I think it's Miss Darcy, I believe. Weird that I might know that, but just because somebody plays ahead of somebody in the NBA does not mean when they come in the game that they're the best player on the court. Okay, it could be position, it could be such as the Grizzlies. You go in with John Conchar first normally because he's playing with more of the starters, because the starters all need the ball, right? And so if you have somebody like John Conchar, he doesn't need the ball. He doesn't need you to pass him the ball. He's going to stand in the corner and just try to play defense and hit a shot, maybe grab a rebound or 2, and that's it. David Roddy is much more than that. Pretty much the same player, right? Doesn't exactly need the ball, but he gives you more off of the bench when you actually need that creator. He is the main creator on the second unit alongside Desmond Bane. When Ja's here and the normal rotations flip, it's going to be Bane and it's going to be Roddy. And Roddy's going to play a lot of those minutes when Ja is not on the court. So he's not going to get the Ja effect, but he's going to have the chance to be a creator.
You know what really stood out to me tonight was obviously he's hitting these outside shots. That's awesome. And he's ready for the moment, which I think is the biggest thing, right? What's he going to do in the bright lights? There's not much more you can do other than lead a fourth quarter comeback when your team looks like they're down, like left for dead. What was big to me tonight was there was a fast break opportunity, and it wasn't like a one Roddy versus the entire Mavs team, but he just saw an opening. It was, the Mavs were back. They were ready for their half-court set, but he saw a guy in the paint. And he said, this is our best opportunity to score. And he just went one-on-one. I don't know if it was at Kleba or if it was at
doesn't matter.
Josh Green. Yeah, it really doesn't. It doesn't matter. Well, I'm thinking about, because I want to say it was an actual big, right? It wasn't like he was going at Jaden Hardy or something like that. It was a big in the paint, and he just went right at him and went and got the bucket. That's big to have a guy be that confident to say, I've got a lane, I'm taking it. And you feel good watching him do it. I feel good about when he takes those drives in the paint that he's going to either get a bucket or make the right decision. He's only had one, what I would call a Dylan shot that I've seen on those opportunities so far. And that's big because you just want a guy making good decisions. And he's making them, and he's doing it with confidence. Love it.
He's making decisions now that he did not make earlier in the season. And that's no detriment to him. And that's the whole reason I've said on this podcast many times that I love John Conchar, but he is going to get passed over by a guy like David Roddy, as he should, because the upside is there. If the game can slow down to David Roddy, then that is really what needs to happen. And I really do think that David Roddy is going to be the main guy. And honestly, and I don't want to say this and sound like a complete idiot, I really think that some people have talked about certain people being the replacement for a guy like what's his name? Dylan Brooks. Sorry, I lost his name. I think the replacement for somebody like Dylan Brooks is a guy like David Roddy. I'm not saying that he might not be the guy who's going to be starting, but I think in the end, I think that's who you can really replace him with is a guy like David Roddy, who likes to play defense, but also is a little bit of creator and doesn't exactly need the ball, doesn't force shots. I think he can kind of play within the offense, and I think that's kind of what you need, somebody alongside Ja, a little bit more beef. What's your thoughts on Luke Kennard? Because as Chris just said, he brought the thing as why do you think John Conchar is getting 25 minutes versus Luke getting 17? And I have a very strong thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours first as I let my dog in.
I mean, I think that the reason it's happening tonight specifically is because you just sort of were going with the flow of things, and Conchar was in there and everything was flowing without needing Kennard shooting. And tonight was the night where Kennard didn't really give you anything, right? He did some good stuff off the dribble, but it wasn't anything amazing. So tonight I'm like, listen, those minutes were going well when Conchar was on the floor with the units he was in there with. I do think we need to see Taylor start drawing stuff up for Luke, because you got to the end of the game and he has zero rhythm, right? He's got zero rhythm. He's not going to knock down any shots for you. And ideally, that's a guy that can just step in cold and make shots. The truth is, we need to use the guys we've got and create shots for him and for Bane that are perimeter shots. You're going to need those. So these games, as far as that stuff goes, I kind of write them off a lot of things, because those games were obviously the Grizzlies just weren't super locked in and weren't looking to do anything spectacular. You're not going to see playoff sets drawn up for these kinds of games. At the same time, there's certain things that I think they need to get practice in with. And Luke, creating shots for Luke and Bane on the perimeter outside of just a regular half-court offense or whatever needs to be one of those. And we need some Jaren stuff in there as well, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So what I'll say about Luke Kennard, one, I'll rep him. He's a Dookie. I'm a big Duke fan, but I will say that I've seen Luke over his career, whether it was in college, into the NBA. I try to follow the guys enough to the point where, I enjoy watching them succeed all the way back to, Boddy'd, Jay Williams, JJ Redick, a lot of the big dogs. I always try to watch him. And so what I've seen with him is he does exactly need the ball, right? But also he doesn't involve himself within the game enough. And that's his biggest issue. If you watch him on defense, he gets lost a lot. And that could be because he's still trying to find the rotations and the rhythm on the defensive end. But I just watch a lot of times on box outs and stuff like that. He's losing his man, which is allowing guys a free run to the ball and a free run to the rim. Okay. That's simple things that you don't need a scheme for. You don't need any kind of new team. There's no excuses for that. He just loses his guy. He is a traffic cone on defense unless he is man-to-man, head-on, and the guy is just an okay athlete. If they're above average, they're going to go around him. But on offense, he is very much the guy that's in rhythm, but he's also the guy that if you lose him if you're the defense, if you lose him, he will absolutely bury the three-pointer. So he keeps a defender closer to him, okay? But if he doesn't, Luke is going to bury that three-pointer. So there's a double-edged sword, right? He's not going to do much of anything else. He's not going to pass the ball. He's not going to really create his own shot. He's only going to be a really good player when he gets streaky and he gets hot. A lot of times, the reason he does that is because somebody else is hot. Another play like Ja, who's feeling it, getting into the paint, able to kick out to a wide open shot. Or if it's Desmond Bane and everybody's having to pay more attention to him, you have Luke over there. So he can be your Robin, but he won't be your Robin every night. He'll be your Robin once out of every 10 days. Everything
gets easier when Ja Morant is playing.
100%. And he's the reason. He's a good piece for Ja, not for what's currently constructed.
Luke makes a lot more sense for this team when Ja Morant's on the court because exactly what you're talking about. They can't come off of him, right? And that's what you come down to is, okay, if they come off, Ja's got free lane to the paint. If he's got free lane to the paint, night-night.
Yeah.
That's it. And if they come off of him, it's now you got a guy who's shooting 50% from the corner.
Right.
That's what makes a big difference. But listen, also give Conchar, he knocked down some shots the last game against the Mavs too that were important shots, right? Or maybe it was the Warriors game. He knocked down some big ones. But Conchar's played well lately. Everybody's played well except for Jaren.
Wow.
We're gonna talk about that because
go ahead. I just think he's in his head, and I think he's kind of, I don't know, probably frustrated to say the least. And a lot of it, in all honesty, these guys are much smaller than he is, and so he's able to maybe move them around a little bit more, and he's trying to body them up a little bit more, and he's kind of getting handsy with the ball. And a lot of it is he's doing the whole reach around and pinning his guy, which is, listen, it's just that's a small thing that gets fixed pretty quickly, right? Because what that is when you dribble, you just keep your hands forward, right? You can't reach anymore, right? There's no more reaching.
Daniel, the thing is, all this stuff you can say gets fixed pretty quick. And he's still doing it.
No. I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying it will be quick. I'm saying it can be. It can be.
Of course, it can
just
be
something easy. But
it just,
who knows?
That can't keep happening. And these are games. And I was talking about it with somebody tonight on Twitter. These reps, you can tell the Grizzlies were just going to try and turn it on in the second half, pull away, win like they did. Jaren is not good enough to waste opportunities to work on that. Because they need that. They need that paint presence to be there. They need him to be able to dominate in there. He can't keep getting rushed in high-pressure moments, and he can't keep getting lost in high-pressure moments.
Yeah.
I've been as big a Jaren defender when he does awesome and at the stuff he does awesome as anybody else. Dude, he's got to be better. These games can't happen with Ja Morant out and with Steven Adams out. You can't be a non-factor. And he was a non-factor. And it can't happen. And I don't really care. It's not a one game off or, he just didn't have the shot tonight. It's he mentally could not figure out what to do. And that can't keep happening. We can get mad when they don't feed him in the paint all we want. I was mad at the beginning of the game. Truth is, he got his chances down there and he blew it. He showed that he didn't have the capacity to handle that. And we all know that he does. We've seen him do it. He's got to be able to do it consistently. He's got to be someone you can count on. And so I'm not saying that he that's not going to be something he can do in the long run. He could do that this season. He could be a huge factor in the playoffs for us down there. That's got to happen. Be. He can't. The problem is he can't not be.
Right.
It can't be an option where, is he going to be? He's got to be someone they can count on. And so far, it's still hit or miss.
He's the biggest X factor in this team. Like, when he is going, this team is going. Like, that is just a simple truth. And the fact that Jaren, he's still 23 years old, right? He's still one of the younger players on the team, especially one of the main contributing players. And so there's going to be lapses like this with any young person in life. Like, I promise you, I've managed a lot of them. And there's just a bunch of ding dong moments, we'll say. And that is really what happens is you kind of just get lost in the moment, or you just forget about things. And I think just him understanding little movements that he can change, whether it's when you make 2 moves, you go. And that's something that's very simple, right? You move, you bang once, and then you bang twice, and then I need to go. Because if not, what starts happening is you start fighting with your hands and you start trying to move them. What he's doing, he's trying to, he's banging them down back and forth. And eventually what they're going to do is they're going to do like a Draymond, and they're just going to draw a charge on you, and they're going to flop, and you're going to get an offensive foul. 2 moves or less, right? You make 1 quick move and you go, or you make, a move doesn't there, another move, and then you go. Like, that's simple things. He's going to figure it out. He'll be fine. But sometimes you have to make stupid things like this happen before you actually can realize what you have to change. And so he'll be better because of it. I'm not too worried about it. But all in all, the Grizzlies have played well without Ja. Real quick, we're going to hit on one more thing, and it's going to be on the Ja Morant stuff. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, okay? And I have mine. I'm not sure exactly where you stand on it, and there's no really stance. It's not about that, but just curious about the Ja stuff, okay? Can we speculate if he's coming back sooner rather than later with these new reports that are coming out? Because tonight, Woj just came out and said that Ja has been checked into a counseling center. Whether that is drugs, whether that's alcohol, whether that's social media, whether that's partying, is it mental? Like, not like, something like too terrible where he's in a padded room. I don't want to talk about that. Like, in general, like, he's not like down that path. I'm just saying, who knows what type of a facility this is. And so I just think that there will be a moment for him to reflect. And I think it's happening. I don't know when he checked into this place. I don't know if he's held there for a certain amount of time, but I believe that he's been there for a hot minute, right? I think he was there. And I honestly think that there's a reason that the Grizzlies said the 4 games. I think there is a very definitive reason why they would say that, because you could easily say out indefinitely, right? Why would you say 4 games? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I don't know if it's not like a sources say thing, but we have reason to believe he hadn't been around his house in a while, right?
Correct.
You and I do, but I'm just saying, it's not like, we have a source within the team. That's not what it is. We just, I think, need to just let it be. Again, this is a dude who is going through a lot more, right? And you see the people popping jokes off on Twitter. You see people.
It's sad.
And it's sad. Some people are just trolls, but some people genuinely don't understand, right? And you and I have talked about this before. I've been through some mental health stuff in my past. It's not something you can't explain it, right? No. It's not something that's necessarily reasonable. And, we talked a little bit about this on one of the shows, I believe. I may have been with Ryan and them. I don't remember. But when you are all of a sudden making all this kind of money and you're as loyal of a person as Ja Morant is, which is part of what we as Memphians love about him, is how loyal he is.
Right.
You there's a lot of pressure when all of a sudden you can financially do stuff for a lot of them. And you're constantly thinking about, hey, I got to do this for them. I got to do that for them. And even though the pressure doesn't show up on the court, the pressure doesn't have to be basketball.
Yeah.
The pressure can be my family, my friends, my people. And it could be a lot of different things, but who cares? Who cares what it is? The fact is he needs help and he's getting it. And yeah, I bet he's been there for a lot longer than just today. I don't think this is something that just now happened, but it doesn't matter when he comes back, right? It doesn't matter. The chances are he's going to be back sooner than later. If he never puts on a Grizzlies jersey again, that's a dude who needs help and his livelihood's at stake. And I hate that. Listen, Ja Morant is not my buddy. Ja Morant is not my boy. He is my favorite team's best player. That is what he is to me. But you still have to take a step back and remember he is a human being and his life is bigger than basketball. And so truth is, I don't really want to speculate on it.
Yeah.
He's going to take as much time as he needs and get better. And that's not only what's best for the team, it's what's best for him. And that's what matters most.
All right. Well, I'm going to go down the speculation route because you didn't. I'll be the bad guy.
Okay.
No, I think that I think that very much everything you said I agree with 100%. But I just think that he does need the help, and the indefinite time obviously could be the easy thing that's said. But I think I really do. I could be completely wrong on here, right? I have a thought of what might be, and the reason that I see the tea leaves and reading the tea leaves for the Grizzlies front office, they do stuff for a reason. And most of the time it is a copycat answer, which they give. But for whatever reason, they gave 4 games for, I don't know why. They could have said whatever they could have said 5. They could have said 10. I don't know why they gave 4 games. They could have more than likely, if he's checked into a facility and they have an unknown feeling about him. Right now, Ja's away from the team. Indefinitely, we're not sure. We'll give you an update as soon as we know. But it was a 2-game suspension, and then they came back with a 4-game. Well, the 5th game is on the road in San Antonio, right? And the 6th game's a Saturday back in Memphis. So there's no reason why they would do 4 and not 5, right? If you just want to do on the road games. So my thinking is that they kind of knew where his mind was at. They probably have spoken with him, and they had a good feeling after maybe communicating with him, maybe communicating with the league, and said, hey, let's give you a couple weeks off. We like where your head's at now. Let's re-talk about it here next week sometime. And that'll be 4 games. We'll go ahead and go with that. That way it makes the most sense. That's my outside looking in, reading the tea leaves. Okay. That's not speculating about his mental stuff. If he needs the rest of his life and never put on another Grizzlies jersey, that's fine with me. I'm on the same page as you. I just want to speculate on the front office and what they're saying, because a lot of times Grizzlies fans want to know. I want to know kind of what are they actually saying, because you're trying to read between the lines with this front office, because they never actually come out and are forthright. So that is frustrating for a lot. I actually enjoy it because I like trying to pick it apart and speculate. And, conspiracy theory, me and Ryan are very much conspiracy.
Oh, I already saw that. Told Ryan, stay away from this one.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen with him. But all in all, if he gets the help he needs, that's the most important thing. I could care less when he comes back. I hope it's this season. I hope it's in time for the playoffs. But if it's not, I will be really upset, but I will understand, right? You can feel both ways. Yeah. But I think there are reasons why they said what they said. And so I think I've kind of stood with it. I kind of put that date out there on the 18th, the Grizzlies versus Warriors at home. I've said that. Who knows? He could be back with the team on San Antonio. Because they don't care about guns. They all have guns. So they'll be big fans of Ja Morant. I'm kidding. Too soon? Too soon.
We're going to take you to diversity training or something.
All right. Nate, what else you got right now? I don't know. A little update about the podcast. I don't know if we're doing one Wednesday. I'm actually going down to visit family. So I totally... this was last minute that we decided. Kids are on spring break, wife's on spring break. And so we're going to go visit family for a little bit. And so I'm not sure who's doing the podcast Wednesday, if anybody is. So kind of stay tuned. We might have somebody doing it. We might not, depending on how everything goes. But either way, Nate, do you have anything you want to hit on before we get out of here?
Nothing, man. It's good to see this team get back to winning these games late and playing like themselves in the second half. That last game was very much so in doubt, not the one tonight, but the one before. But they found a way to come back, outplay their opponent, win. And then tonight was a game they never let get into doubt late. And so it's good to see them do that. They need to know how to do that. It was too Ja-centric all season. And so the ability to learn how to win without Ja again, I think, is something that will behoove them and benefit them come playoff time. So prayers up for Ja, continue prayers up for Ja and for Steve-O as he continues to try and get back from his injury. But it's fun, man. It's good to be having fun watching the Grizzlies play basketball again. And it's all thanks to Dillon Brooks.
Can't forget about BC. I know he has to be going through it as well.
I did forget about BC.
He's very much on the ascent up the mountain right now. And so I know it's going to be tough. This is just the start, because usually it's the surgery, right? And you get the swelling to go down, you get the pain to kind of subside. And then once all that happens, dude, it's on. And it's guns a-blazing, and you're trying to work back to get your foot and everything to help you get there. The Achilles is something different, but once he's able to get back to doing, physical therapy, that's going to be much helpful for him. But until then, you not being able to do anything and recovering is the hardest part. Once you are able to actually do some physical therapy, recovering from an injury, that can help you mentally, because the first part of it is pretty tough, because you're just sitting there with nothing to do. You can't work out. You can't do things. And so that's got to be very tough. But the Grizzlies do play the Heat. The Heat just won 119-115 at home against the Jazz. The Grizzlies take on the Heat Wednesday, 6:30. What are your thoughts on that game? You think the Grizzlies come out, play the Heat well?
I do. I think Jaren has a bounce back game. As frustrated as I've been with this play lately, I think he comes out, plays really well, and helps him get a win. And I think you'll have probably a big Bane game. I think it's a big Bane and Jaren game. I don't think you have as much of the Roddies and the Aldamas of the world showing out in that one.
The Heat shot well tonight, 14 of 34, 41% from three tonight. They normally don't shoot that well.
Jimmy Buckets tryout Wednesday night.
Jimmy Buckets, 24 8 and 4. And honestly, just looking over their numbers, they had, what is that? 7 starters, almost 8. 7 players scored double digits. And one of those guys on the bench had 9, and that's Kyle Lowry. He's coming off the bench right now. I'm guessing he's working his way back from an injury. I haven't followed them closely enough to know. But yeah, that's pretty tough. And so we'll see. But they have a good team, right? And it's going to be tough to beat them. But in the end, I think the Grizzlies are very much a team that can beat them. And so as long as they don't shoot great from three-point line, I think that the Grizzlies do have a chance, because they are more of an interior team. And if Jaren can handle Bam Adebayo, which I do believe he will, I think this Grizzlies team can win as well. But you're going on the road at Miami. Thankfully, after all this has happened, right, I think it's not going to be as much partying going on, okay? I think it's going to be more of a business trip. Miami can be tough, though, I will say. They're probably heading straight to Miami tonight. That way they can get there a full day in Miami, because I know I would. Just be careful in South Beach, okay? Just be careful.
Yeah, you're not lying.
But that's all we have. If you have a chance, subscribe, rate, review. Subscribe to YouTube. We're trying to build that, and it's up to, I think, 70 subscribers now, which went from 0 to 70, I guess, in a few months. And so it's been very good. We want to get that to at least 100 and blow it out from there throughout the playoffs. But if you are not a follower of the Grizz 901 podcast, go over to Grizz 901 on YouTube and subscribe. Whether you are a loyal person on YouTube or not, it helps us. I promise you. Just push the subscribe button. Help a friend be a friend. Right?
Just click on the screen. Have it going on mute. Like, subscribe. I don't listen to these things, but I play every one of them. It's okay. It didn't take much.
But yeah, we appreciate it. It's been great. It's been a fun time. Our podcast is doing much better than even last year, and last year was incredible. So I always want to say thank you for that, because it has been a rocket that we've been on for probably a year and a half now. It's just can steadily just kind of blowing up, and so it's been good. Now we have the No Bluffing podcast. Go follow them. And then free basketball. I will be on free basketball. We are recording both shows Tuesday, tomorrow. So if you have a chance, you're listening to this and you like NCAA, go and pick up the free basketball. It will be on the Grizz 901 network. We're recording it tomorrow afternoon. So I believe they're going to have one up Tuesday night and then one up Wednesday. They'll both be NCAA centric. We're going to break down the bracket. So if you're a bracket nerd like I am, as many others, if you want to hear a little bit about teams more in depth, feel free, pick it up, listen. We won't try to make them too long, but we're going to have a lot of fun with them, especially I know me and Ryan are on one. And then I think Ryan's friend Brandon, who breaks down the bracket with him every year, is going to be on the other. But it's going to be a lot of good time. So make sure you tune into that. But that's all we have. The Grizzlies are playing well. And I think that they're starting to find their rhythm. And without Ja, I think that they're trying to find who they kind of are, because they are a very, very good team. And they're actually really doing a good job. So Franklin, welcome. Yes, this is the end. We're wrapping it up, buddy.
Welcome. Goodbye.
Hey, but if you go ahead and push that rewind button, you'll catch the whole thing. So, but that's all we have. It's been a great time. The Grizzlies are doing well.
I think that means you automatically have to at least like and subscribe, if not already.
So if you come in at the end, you have to like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Franklin
it's the only way
right
to
now.
watch it on the way back. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was like, Franklin, I think is, but anybody else who just tuned in, I don't know who you are.
We're watching you. We can see you.
These things go too late for us. We're too dumb for this.
That's it. Be nice and tell your friends.